Most people think I make charts and graphs every day for a living, but that's not all I do. To put it simply, I'm the person that takes the data from what's happening on the ground and turn it into something that management can use to make decisions. And it's a bit more interesting than just charts and graphs. I work as an analytics engineer for a healthcare company that owns multiple private hospitals in Malaysia. Now you may be wondering, what's an analytics engineer? To put it in simple terms, analytics engineer is just a combination of data engineer and data analyst. So as a data engineer, you're expected to build pipelines to move and store data, whereas as a data analyst, you're expected to analyze this data and come up with insights. An analytics engineer basically sits in the middle of these two. We're expected to sort of build the data infrastructure and also gather insights from this data. I work specifically under a department called the Operational Excellence, which helps improve the operational processes and also strategic decision making using the data we have. And most of the time, it's through creating Power BI dashboards. That's the high level of what I do, but let me break it down further to explain how my usual workflow goes. Most of the projects we get starts off with the stakeholder coming to us and explaining their problem or a requirement. For example, it could be a department trying to track a certain metric for their KPI, or it could be a department trying to understand an operational issue with the data we have. Either way, after this conversation, we will check whether we have an existing dashboard that already helps them. So either we can just share it to them or we enhance it to make sure it solves their problem. So the key point is that we don't want multiple dashboards showing the same thing, so we will do that first filtering over here. But let's say we don't have an existing dashboard that can help them, that's when we build one. Sounds simple, right? But here's where it gets technical. The first challenge is finding the data because it's almost never sitting in one place in a way we need it to be. Depending on the project, we look at different locations. Firstly, the hospital information system, which is the hospital database. Then we have third-party applications that the hospital may be using, and also Excel sheets, so the data could be in someone's computer. Our priority is to actually automate the data collection part, so we first always look in the HIS and also the third-party applications before we rely on the Excel sheet. Ideally, we don't want our staff to actually spend time on data entry. Instead, that time is better used to do meaningful things that actually move the needle. Once we figured out where the data is in these databases, we then start building pipelines to move this data from the source systems into our data warehouse, which sits in the cloud. Within our data warehouse, we follow the medallion architecture, which is bronze, silver, and gold layers of data. I'll put up a diagram here to help you understand. But essentially, each layer has data that is more clean and more structured compared to the previous layer. To do this, we use tools like SQL stored procedures and also Azure Data Factories to move data from the source system into bronze, into silver, and finally to gold. Previously, I used to be more involved in the building pipelines from source system up to the gold layer, but nowadays I work more on just the gold layer because we have most of the pipelines already built out, and we also have a data engineer dedicated to maintain and even build new ones if required. So in the gold layer, I'll build data models using different data sets to match the requirements of the dashboard. But here's the thing I only learned after I actually started working. The data doesn't tell you the full story of what's happening on the ground. Sometimes inaccurate data may not be a technical problem, it could actually be a process problem, or even a data collection problem. The way something is being done on the ground may not match how the system expects it to be done, causing it to be flagged as inaccurate data. But that's not the case. So for operational projects, I actually go down to the hospitals to understand and learn how these processes work on the ground. One of the main domains I manage is the emergency department. And for this, I've actually been to multiple EDs in multiple hospitals to actually map out the entire patient journey from when the patient arrives to the ED until they leave the ED. So this involves me going to each step, each stage, talking to each person in charge to actually understand their workflow, what are their pain points, and compare what's happening on the ground versus what we see in the data. I think this is one of the more interesting things about my job, because instead of just sitting at the desk and assuming what these numbers mean and just flagging it as inaccurate, I can actually go to the ground and understand the process and actually figure out why the data doesn't reflect what's happening on the ground. And every single time I go down to the ground, I learn something new that the data just doesn't show explicitly. Once I understand the processes better and the data models are ready in the goal layer, I start building the dashboards using Power BI. And my philosophy here is quite simple. I always prioritize the outcome over the aesthetics, because a dashboard that doesn't help stakeholders make decisions better and faster is just a bad dashboard. Stakeholders usually want to see numbers, they want to see why things are happening, and they want to act on it quickly. So if the dashboard can't help them do that, it's just useless for them. That doesn't mean I make ugly dashboards, but I just make them good enough that they can start using it quickly and start making better decisions. So usually once the first draft of the dashboard is done, I share it with the key stakeholders first for their review. If they have any reviews, I will then enhance the dashboard to fulfill these requirements, and then I will then roll it out to other users that would need it. For larger rollouts, we actually have some short training sessions to help walk through these users on how to use these dashboards to help them make better decisions. Because a dashboard that nobody knows how to use is just a pretty screen. And that's what I do as an analytics engineer. I honestly do love my job because one, it's in the healthcare industry, so it's not just dashboards to help people sell products. It's more of dashboards that actually help affect patient journey and the patient experience of the people that come to our hospitals. The dashboards that we build actually help hospitals to optimize their resources, optimize their processes, and this actually affects the patient journey so that it's more smoother and more comfortable for the patients that come to the hospital. And honestly, that's just very satisfying for me. And second, it's tech related in a way. We use a lot of analytics tools, data tools, and also we have some AI initiatives that we plan to roll out this year. So the techie in me is quite happy with that as well. So if you're on the fence on trying to be a data analyst, or if you should be an analytics engineer, especially in the healthcare space, I hope this video can help you make a decision. If you have any other questions, feel free to comment them down below and I'm happy to answer them. That's all for this one. Catch you on the next one. Peace.